I am blue, you are bright and shiny in my mind. You got me loving, hating, crazy indecision in my mind.
Welcome to the Fall Podcast, where the focus is on deer hunting, tips, tricks, tactics, and stories from across the Midwest. And now, here is your host, Aaron Blasey.
And welcome back to the Fall Podcast. This is episode number 71. I am your host, Aaron Blasey, and with me, as always, my co-host, Justin Fabian. Justin, what's going on, man?
Hey, not a lot, Aaron. Just braving the heat wave here in Iowa, man. It's 116 today.
Keep it over there.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like, the dog was like screaming yesterday because she wanted in, and like her feet were burning on the concrete, like at the door. Like that's how bad it was.
That's terrible. You know it's hot.
Oh yeah.
When it's that hot.
Like I really thought for a second about cracking an egg to see if it would cook out there. Like no joke. Like I bet I'm telling you, it probably would have cooked an egg on the concrete.
That's crazy.
It was bad.
I always feel like us as humans are always bitching, though, because, you know, the winter, the people that do live in the winter, it's like, oh, it's always cold and the snow and everything. And then, you know, there's never really a happy medium. And when we do get the happy medium, it's like only for a short period of time. But now in the summer, it's like so hot and it's like, I don't want to go outside, and just, we're never happy.
No.
Ever.
No, we're not. I mean, if it's too cold, we complain. If it's too hot, we complain. If it's raining, it's like, oh, I can't do anything today.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know.
We actually had a rainstorm come through last night, and we lost power from 2 a.m. to like 7 a.m. So loud booms, lots of rain. I think, well, a little bit of rain. My rain gauge has 3/10, but we haven't had rain in a little while, so it's good to get that for the crops and the farmers and food plots too. So I haven't got all my food plots in, but I got a couple more to do, which this next week or the week after I'm going to hopefully get those the rest of the way in. But this rain is helping out for a lot of people, so yeah. That is a good thing.
Yeah, it's just one extreme or the other, it seems like.
Yep. Well, you know, with this heat, you know, you said, we were just talking before record, and you said you weren't going to shut your AC unit off in the house because it's so hot out, which I don't blame you. While we're recording, sometimes we just don't want to hear that, but it's fine. It's, you know, I want you to be comfortable over there, and as I can see it, probably what you're doing is you probably only have shorts on right now with no shirt, no hat, no nothing, because your wife's gone for the weekend, and
Yep.
You are building some meat missiles right now, aren't you?
I am. I just fletched up 11 arrows. I'm short one because it's the one I killed my buck with last year. And like you, once I kill an animal with an arrow, I don't ever reuse it. It goes on the shelf like as part of the trophy. And blood, fat, bent broadhead, whatever it looks like, that's the way it stays. So I stripped everything on the 11 I had left, which were match grade FMJs, and I cleaned them all with degreaser. I cleaned them all with rubbing alcohol. I put brand new wraps on them. I cleaned those. I got new veins. I did 6 last night until I just felt like I'm done for the night. I'm just kind of doing it leisurely, taking my time and making sure everyone's perfect. And got up this morning, had breakfast, went to the gym, came home, and I was like, I'm gonna finish the arrows. And you're right, I'm sitting here in my basement in a pair of shorts, no shirt, no socks, and the wife's in Wichita with friends from Texas for the weekend. So I just got the stereo going, playing some Eagles, and just thinking about Utah, thinking about Montana.
Yep. I'm envious, man, because, you know, you're batching this weekend, so
yeah.
You know, you have no stipulations other than when you want to eat, and you have to be somewhat responsible for the dog.
Yes, somewhat. They're loving the couch life in the AC right now. They don't want to be outside either, so it's
yep.
You know, it's kind of nice just to slow it down for a day or two and just breathe, you know, get stuff done that you don't otherwise get done by the time you make dinner and eat together. And,
Yep.
we went to, my wife volunteered at a 4-H stock show. She works for Iowa State University, and a lot of her clients are 4-H, students or their families. And she came up in the livestock showing world in Texas, and it's a big part of her life. And it was cool to see her in her element for as much as I'm in mine. It was nice to watch her interact in that world again. And so we spent 2 nights out at the fairgrounds at the 4-H stock show and helping out over there.
Yeah. My wife's the same way. She, got brought up in the livestock and showing the animals and showing the cows and the dairy feeders and all that stuff. And actually, our fair just started today, Sunday. Well, I'm sorry, this is Saturday, but this weekend it's going through this week. So we'll be there, this week. And Peyton's actually going to walk a calf. It's their first year. She's going to be able to walk a calf through and show that and everything. So that's pretty cool. She's pretty excited about that. But I agree. I mean, it's cool to see them in somewhat of their element too. And so they can kind of relive what they grew up doing as well.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, it's the way I'll look at my child one day, when they see their first animal in the woods, or if they even want to hunt for that matter. But I mean, it's just one of those things. That same level of appreciation, I think, that you see when someone else kind of has that fire in their eye.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, and it's just that passion that you have for something, like you said. So
yeah.
But I want to get to your arrow build. So you've been building arrows, and I'm waiting on mine. Mine should be here next week, but I'm building some new arrows as well. And I feel like everybody and their brother out there is building arrows, but I think it's that time of the year to do that. Right. So give me your specs on your arrow, what you're going to be running this year, and then I'll do the same when you're done with what I'm thinking, because I'm changing some things up this year.
Yeah, and I did the same. So last year, the way I look at my hunting setup, no matter what kind of bow you're shooting, what string you have, hopefully it's an ABB, but, no matter what your build is or what the purpose is, for me, everything revolves around the arrow. Like, the bow's going to do its job and send the arrow down range regardless, so you want to do as much as you can to influence what's going to happen when that arrow gets to where it's going, and, what you can do to make sure it gets there, true to course. Last year I was shooting fixed blade broadheads, so because of that I wanted that hard hitting, deep penetrating FMJ. I ran aluminum inserts in it, and I used a 4-inch vane with the true helical, the 3-degree helical, and I just wanted to stabilize that big broadhead as it cut the wind. It's the first thing, breaking wind between the bow and the target, so those longer vanes are more suited for that. But this year I'm going over to the Sevr Broadheads, and I wanted to adjust my setup to accommodate a mechanical again. So I went back to the Blazers, just a short 2-inch high profile vane. The AAE Max Hunters function the same way. I had really great luck with the Blazers in the past, and I knew that worked with a mechanical, and I did some research, and I ended up putting that same 3-degree helical on the Blazer. There's research out there that shows the arrow is almost in full rotation immediately upon leaving the string when you put that true helical on the fletching, as opposed to just the straight, parallel or perpendicular, rather, fletch to the shaft. So I went 2-inch Blazer with a 3-degree helical and like a 4-inch wrap on it, just something to give me some little extra visual on it. And I'm excited to shoot it. I really am. So I fletch those on the same FMJs, but I also have a dozen Easton Axis 5mm carbon arrows on the way. And I'm going to do some experimenting with those, and I'm going to put probably 50 grains of brass in those as an insert as opposed to the aluminum. And I'm going to run the same fletching setup on it. So what I'm looking for there is just the difference, where the impact difference is between the FMJ at 11.2 grains per inch to the 5mm Axis, which is a carbon shaft. which I think I got 9.3 grains per inch on that one. Throw the brass insert in there, put your FOC a little further forward, and see how they fly different, because I'm trying to build this arrow for 50+ yard shots for my elk and my mule deer. So if that difference at 50 yards or 70 yards is 4 to 6, or maybe, I don't think it's going to be 8 inches, but if there is that difference, it exponentially increases with your range, right? Like a 50-yard shot, if you're an inch high, at 100 yards, you're going to be 2 inches high or more, because the arrow is losing velocity. So to me, that equates to more room in the sight housing to put your pins closer together. Now, I run a fixed 5-pin sight, so if that means I can get my bottom pin dialed for 70 as opposed to 50, I'm running that arrow, because I want to be able to hold my pin on the animal at 70 instead of taking my 50 and trying to hold over, knowing I have no more pins to work with. I'm just essentially gap shooting and taking my best guess as far as how far to hold over. So, long-winded answer of why I'm doing 2 different setups, but it makes sense.
No, so. I like it, and I like that you're experimenting with some stuff too, and 2 different setups. Now, that's kind of what I'm doing as well, but I've got a dozen Easton Axis 340s coming, which they're going to be right around, they're carbon 5mm, just like you were talking.
Yep.
I think they're like 9.7 GPI, or right there around 9.7 to 10. I can't remember exactly because I don't have it in front of me, but I'm going to run that this year. And I'm going to I got the 50 to 75 grain brass brakes, so the insert. So I don't know if I'm going to run 50 or 75. I'm going to toy around with it when I'm building them, because I want to see what my FOC, how different it is with the 50 to the 75. I'm just going to play with that and see where it comes out, because before, I think I was mentioning it on an earlier podcast where I was going to do a 125 grain head this year. Now that I'm going to go with the brass, like the 50 grain or 75 grain brass, I'm not going to go the 125. I'm going to stick with a 100 grain head and see where I can get my FOC there. Yep. But yeah, I'm going to cut those down to roughly 27.5 inches. That's about where I am, 27.5 to 28 inch arrows length. I'm going to run the 2-inch blazers like you did with the 3 degree helic. And I've shot those my whole life until the last 4 years. I've been shooting AAE vanes, Max Hunters, and I really like them. But I'm not going to lie to you, I've had troubles with them getting to stick on an arrow or a wrap. I feel like I'm doing the right process, but it's, for some reason or another, they're just not sticking on. So that's one reason. And the other reason is I just like those boning blazers. I've had really good luck with them. And what I do differently, which I haven't seen a lot of guys really do it, and I actually can't really take credit for it. I saw a guy do it a long time ago, but what he would do was take 4-inch wraps, and he would fletch his arrow, and then he would put the wrap, he would start the wrap on the bottom of the arrow 4 inches down. You know what I mean? So you're actually putting the vanes to the carbon arrow, but putting the wrap below it. And I thought it was a good idea. I started doing it probably 8 years ago maybe, and I liked it because, when you wrap an arrow and then you put the vanes on the wrap, if you screw up a vane or something like that, your whole wrap and everything's done for. Now you don't have to worry about it. So if something falls off, a vane falls off your arrow or something like that, it doesn't ruin your wrap. That thing stays on there all the time. And what I'm doing with the wrap is I just want to see blood, and it does make the arrow look a little better too. But I just want to see blood and what that looks like. And so I just figured just moving it up a little bit, it helped out with not having to replace it all the time when you ruin a vane. So, but that's going to be my setup this year, and I don't know, the arrows should be here next week. Going to start building them. I got my vanes, my wraps, and going to go to town here soon, so I can't wait.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like one of those steps, in the process of anticipation of the first hunt. And I finally got my string, my new string. No more overcooked green bean. I got the flow yellow with gunmetal twist, and it's a perfect match to the fletchings I've got. They're flow yellow with Boning calls them silver, but it's a gray. It's not really metallic-y, and it matches the riser to my bow perfectly, and the twist in the string, everything. It looks really sharp, and it's, as I've said before, I'm just anal about that. I like it to look good, but it does.
Well, you sent a picture of it to me today, and they're like a perfect match.
Yeah,
and it does look pretty sweet. I can't wait to see the string on the bow, and not to mention I've got a new string coming too, and I'm getting away from my normal like orange color. I usually do like some sort of orange in it.
Yep.
And I went totally on the other end of the spectrum. I'm going Odin green, so like a darker green, and a jungle green speckled, so it's like a lighter green. But when they're twisted up, they look sweet. And it's got black serving. So
yep.
I was just talking to Bryant the other day, and those will be shipped out right around Monday or Tuesday. So I can't wait to get those. And got new ABB Platinums coming, so I can't wait to put those on too. So it is going to be like Christmas in July.
Yeah.
And I can't wait.
Yep, that was me. I was waiting on, I think I could package a day this week between veins and adhesive and wraps, and I got a new stabilizer I put on my bow this year too. I'm going to try out a new stabilizer. Again, I'm trying to build everything for those longer range shots, and this stabilizer's telescoping stabilizer, and it's just like the leg on a tripod. It twists and it extends from 12 all the way out to 33 inches if you want, and you can stop anywhere in between. So I have played with it a little bit in the yard, and I'll tell you, like, putting that center of gravity a little further out in front of the bow, you'd be amazed at how much pin float you eliminate by just putting a few ounces, 20, 24 inches out in front of you, as opposed to just those little 10-inch or 8-inch, just hunting stabilizers. I've never tried it before, but it was noticeably different for me, and I'm impressed.
Well, I know we're getting a little lengthy on this intro here, and I want to get to our interview with Clint from Sevr Broadheads, and that's who we have on today.
Yep.
You had reached out to Clint. You've got a relationship with him there, and he was more than happy to come on and talk. And I thought it was a pretty cool podcast because of how Sevr got started. They actually were a broadhead way back in the day, and they just kind of rejuvenated themselves and come out with this Sevr Broadhead and the components to it. That's what I wanted to know more about, because it's really a broadhead that with the blades and the pivoting, the pivoting blades and the titanium ferrule.
Yep. It's
a combination of something that nobody else is doing right now in the broadhead world that I know of anyway.
No, I don't either. And, those are just a couple of the key design features that make this, so desirable right now. I mean, I've been shooting them since April this year. I shot my turkey with one. Allie shot her bear with one. And, not only did they perform awesome, but there's just so many things that they thought of in designing this broadhead that, or I should say, like bringing it back to life. Like you said, you can practice with this thing as a practice tip. You just put a second set screw in. It prevents the blades from opening, and you can shoot the same head in a target that you're going to hunt with, without having to change anything or, jeopardize the integrity of that broadhead. And it's one more thing to keep track of, that little tiny set screw, but it's also one more thing you don't got to go out and buy separately. You're always going to have your field points, so the field point is true to the flight of the broadhead, but when it comes to tuning the broadhead, you don't have to go out and buy another practice head, or there's nothing else out there that is as aerodynamic as the head, that needs to take its place. You throw that set screw in and you send it, and it's like the blades lock open, like you said. There's just so many aspects of this head that make it desirable and functional. And and they, not only that, they just came out with two more heads, that are a little bit different design.
And I want to elaborate one more thing on what you were saying about the practice, the practice set screw, is that I want to be practicing with the broadheads that I'm going to be shooting the animal with, the same one. And with this design, you can do that because these blades, they get hidden in this ferrule. So nothing's, the target's not ripping them up. It's not dulling them because nothing's touching them. That's what I found really intriguing. And quite honestly, if you really wanted to, you could use these as field points. Yeah. Like, honestly, it's not going to ruin them. as much as, a guy shoots, you could be shooting these as field points practice in the backyard all the time if you wanted.
Yes, and we've already listed a multitude of reasons why this head is awesome, but they're also direct to consumer. You're not going to find these retail anywhere. You go on their website and you can buy one if you want. You can buy 50 if you want. You can build a package of a combination of all three different designs, the 2.1, the 1.5, or the 1.7, depending on your purpose or, the functionality. And it's just a completely, I don't want to say customizable, but you can customize your order. And if you compare it, equivalent to your standard 3-pack of any other broadhead out there, I don't care if it's Rage, G5, Muzzy, whatever. If you do a price comparison, when you buy 3 versus 3, you're saving a ton of money. So check them out, do some research on it, and if you're open-minded and you're willing to give something new a chance, just go order one or two and try it. I mentioned Allie shot her bear with it this year. She's only pulling 40 pounds on her bow. Okay, she was shooting the 2.1, the Sever 2.1, and leading into the hunt, I was so nervous about having her shoot that broadhead just because of her draw weight, but it performed flawlessly. The bear died in 30 yards, and there was blood on the ground from impact up to the point where we recovered it. I was shocked. That was a huge eye-opener for me to watch how well it performed on such a low poundage bow. Now, granted, she made a great shot. Placement is everything. But for a mechanical to perform like that at 40 pounds, I was floored.
With that big a cut.
Yeah, with that big of a cut. On a big animal, too. We're not talking about
tough skin. Well, cool. I don't want to give away everything, so they just have to listen to this intro. So there is a lot more into this podcast than what we have just established. But I think it'd be a good time we just kick this over to the interview with Clint and let him take it from here. Yeah, for sure. All right. Today on the phone we have Clint Warner from Sevr Broadheads. Clint, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I glad we got a chance to hook up here, and I'm interested in talking about some Sevr Broadheads and knowing a little more about the company. How's that sound?
That sounds great, yeah.
Very cool. So, to start, a lot of people I don't think they know about Sevr, and I just kind of want to start from, the inception of the Broadhead and the company and kind of where all that began and where you guys are located at.
Yeah, no worries. So we're based out of Salt Lake City. How Sever got started, though, I've always been a fan of the Ulmer Edge Broadhead. And it was a broadhead that was out, around 2010 or so. It was designed by a guy named Rusty Ulmer, brothers of Randy Ulmer, who's a big Western mule deer hunter and has probably taken more big mule deer than anybody. And before that was a top-level tournament archer and, just one of the best archers and human beings, that you can find. So between him and his brother, they collaborated, came out with the Ulmer Edge Broadhead, and I believe it was Trophy Taker that sold it years ago. And after a few years, it went away. And I always just felt that it had really good potential and that if it was done right, we could just do it better. And I always kind of remembered that broadhead. And when the opportunity came up for us to do a broadhead, I thought, man, this is what we should do. And so, make a long story short, I was able to get the rights to produce it. And then we completely re-engineered the head. Took a lot of the same features that made the Ulmer Edge great, but we redesigned the head and made it better. So, but besides the product, there's a lot of good broadheads that come out every year at ATA, but they go away, a year or two later because they can't compete. And so just having a good product isn't enough. And we were fully aware of that, going into this. I mean, even though, we're affiliated with a strong brand in the industry, we've never made a broadhead before. We've never competed in the broadhead space. And the problem as we saw it is this: the broadhead market's extremely crowded and it's dominated by the big broadhead retail brands. And so because of that, it's really hard for retailers to want to give new brands shelf space. And even if they did, you're going to get one or two pegs, and you're not going to sell that many. It'll be a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's just going to be really, really hard to compete with so many retail brands that are out there. I mean, when I did the research, I counted at least 30 of Broadhead brands. Now, most of those aren't big ones, but my point is it's a super crowded space.
Right.
The other problem is, you often can't find what you want, especially, at peak season. You go into a store, they just don't have what you need. You end up going on Amazon anyway. And we just felt like, with more and more people turning to the internet to buy product, that the direct to consumer model would be a good way to go. So we started looking at that. And then also the product, our product, is very expensive to make. We use top quality raw materials. And if we were to sell it a traditional way, we'd be pushing $60 a 3-pack. So we toyed around with this idea for a couple of years, but we never did anything with it because we couldn't figure out any way. You have a great product, but how do you overcome those problems that I just outlined, right?
Right.
But sooner or later, we figured out that, man, with the way the world is today, and everybody's so connected with social media, and it's so easy to get things now, that there's an opportunity here that was bigger than the product. And so this is kind of our vision for Sever, and I'll kind of walk you through kind of how we looked at it. But when you think about what people are passionate about with bow hunting, that what are they most passionate about? Probably their bow. And then the second thing is their broadhead. And then maybe a distant third is the arrow. So when people get into debates about hunting equipment stuff, bows always come to mind, and then broadheads are a big, probably next. So we felt like if we had an opportunity, we could create a broadhead brand with some swagger, one that could live up to the level of passion behind the product that it represents. And we felt that brand, the broadhead needed a brand like that. And we also wanted to develop a personal relationship with each and every customer that uses our product. Mm-hmm. It was important that it had a brand name and a mark that people could be proud of and that they would want to wear. And we also felt like that it was really important, especially with broadheads, that we control our message and ensure, that way it ensures that every customer hears it the way we want it to be told, but it also eliminates, just things from being told in a way that wasn't, correct or something like that. So by just having control of the message, we felt like we could have a better reach that way. Today, with today's customers, I think in many cases, they know more about the product than the people selling them the product do. They do their own research. They know what they want. They don't need to be told really what they want. They figure out what they want, and they go into a store. I mean, how often do you go into a store? It's like you're teaching the person at the store what you're there to buy, right?
Yep.
So we just figured, let's not fight against that. Customers know what they want. Let's just give them what they want. And not tie their hands. I mean, why force them to buy 3-packs? That's silly. So we're like, look, we're going to go consumer direct. We're going to be able to sell a product that they know they want anyway. Let's not force them to buy what's good for the retailer, right? So it's good for the retailer to do 3-packs, and that works for that model. But if you're going to go consumer direct, let's just sell whatever they want. So we came up with the idea of let's sell them in niches, and then to make it even better, let's incentivize. If you're going to buy more, you should get a better deal, right? I mean, that just makes sense. So we do that, So by doing all of these things, we were able to not just compete with a unique product and a cool product, but now we have a brand that's cool. Our go-to-market strategy is efficient. We control the message. We ensure that every customer is treated with the highest level of service, and then also by going direct, we can offer a premium quality head with better features and at a better price than our retail competition is doing. So by doing all of those things and having a good product, now we feel like we have something that's worth, competing against big retail brands, with the Sever brand. So that's it, right? So that was our vision. And so then part of our solution, we created Sever. So that's now fast forward, we're about a year into the brand now, and so far so good.
Yeah, and the thing that intrigues me the most is that, like you said, you have all control over everything that basically you do, and you don't have to go by the book of what these other retailers are trying to tell you, and you can do whatever you want. And I love that you are going through, you're using social media and all these platforms to the fullest, because you don't have to worry about that manufacturer or retailer. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
retailer, and you're just doing it the way that you want to do it. And I think you're kind of getting on the forefront of this stuff, because I mean, you see a lot of these other companies too, like not Broadhead companies, but other ones go on consumer direct, or direct to consumer, and it seems like it's working out for them. I see a couple bow companies do it now, which I feel like is kind of hard for a bow company, because a lot of people want to get their hands on that bow and shoot it. So I think
Yeah.
it might be a little more work for them.
Yeah, and I want to also say too, I mean, there's a definite place and a need for the retailer certainly in archery, right? So I'm going to be the first to also come to the support of a dealer for their role in the archery industry. I mean, if you think about it, dealers have a big role in the service that they provide: tuning bows, building arrows, consulting on what to buy and things like that. So there's definitely a place and a need for them in our space, and it's important for us, and we respect that. With broadheads, however, it's a widget that's really a non-consultative sell in a lot of ways, and so there's not a lot of tuning or any of that goes really into it. So I think products that are like that are going to be the products you see go more consumer direct, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be a need for the dealer if you're, providing that service, and that's what's important. I think the distinction there. I don't want to be an advocate to say brands should go away from traditional distribution. I think it's important that we recognize the role they do play, but just competitive pressure and the way the world is, it is what it is. And if you're going to compete in today's world, you have to be able to sell through consumer direct channels when it's appropriate. And so if we were going to be successful in broadheads, that was the way we were going to have to do it.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree 100%. So I kind of want to transition a little bit into the broadheads themselves and the technology behind them. Now, what's different about your technology that, really nobody else is out there doing?
Okay, so the Sever design's a patented design for a couple of reasons. So we're the only head on the market that is a locking pivoting design. So first of all, it's a rear deploy head, which is typically the preferred type of mechanical that's out there. That's what most people is. But what makes ours unique is that once it opens up, the blades lock open and then they can pivot. So most other broadhead designs, they'll lock open, but they don't pivot. Or they can pivot. Some of them will pivot, but they don't lock. And both of those, have shortcomings. The locking open, non-pivoting kind, because they typically have really big blades, they're prone to deflection, and those big blades can deflect off bones and things, and your arrow can veer off course and things like that. And then the pivoting non-locking ones, they, being that they don't lock, they kind of flutter as they kind of go through, and your wound channel varies in size and stuff like that. So that's kind of for obvious reasons. There's more to be desired there, right?
Right.
So what ours does, by being able to lock open, then pivot, you're going to get those big giant entry holes that you would expect with other big cut type broadheads that are out there. Now I'm talking about the Sevr 2.1 right now.
Okay.
That's our first head that we brought to market last year. So that's kind of what got our name on the map. And it's a big cut head, which is what most deer hunters are going to be using. So you're going to get a big hole with that head, but by locking and pivoting, that's super advantageous because it doesn't deflect. So if you hit a bone, for example, that if the blade hits the bone, it can pivot out of the way. It's going to be more efficient, and it also allows the head to just keep going straight. So you're going to be more accurate, but also it's going to be, by being more efficient, you're going to get better penetration because you're not wasting energy trying to break those bones. It'll go around them if you hit them that way. Now, if you smash a bone head on, of course, it's going to have to just deal with that, right? But if you can eliminate variables, it's always going to be better. So that's something unique to Sever. The other cool thing about our head is the blades are fully contained in the ferrule in flight. So it's one of the things it's quickly gaining a reputation for is how accurate it is. And that's because the blades are hidden. There's nothing exposed that's going to cause it to plane. And by being hidden, it allows us to provide the practice mode feature. So you can lock every head closed with the set screw and then practice with the same head you're going to hunt with. And that's awesome. I like to tell people, it's great for just getting that confidence. You get to hunting camp, especially for a lot of us that travel to hunt. If you go from, 1,000 feet sea level up to 10,000 feet, that difference can make your sights change. So it's nice to be able to get to camp, put the head in practice mode, take 1 or 2 shots, just verify that your sights are where they need to be.
Yep.
So the practice mode's awesome. And then our 2.1 is a titanium ferrule. So we're using a premium material for strength and weight reasons. And by buying direct, you save over 28% over retail brands. So if you compare that to some of the equivalent titanium retail heads out there, they're $50 a 3-pack. Mm-hmm. When you buy 6 or more with Sever, we have coupon codes that'll get your 3-pack equivalent price down to around $36. So there's a big savings. So you're getting a great top-end broadhead, but at a really, really good price.
Yeah. And I see with your ferrule, is that all one titanium piece ferrule? It's all one. It's not, 2 pieces put together?
On the titanium ones, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So the
Gotcha.
2.1 and the 1.5, which is the new one we launched this year, both of those are titanium ferrules. And both of those come in 100 and 125 grain.
And then to go back to the pivoting blades, so with a non-pivoting blade, so your guys are pivoting, so non-pivoting, so if you were to, try to deflect off bone with that may, like with a non-pivoting head, that may, scoop you around the vitals or the heart or a lung or something. With yours, with the pivoting, it would stay locked and it would stay straight planed and it wouldn't bounce, right? Am I reading that right?
Yeah. So if you can go on Google, and you can YouTube it. There's a video that's gone around the internet. A lot of you guys might have seen it. It's showing our head pivoting around a bone. And I think if you Google, the search is Sevr deflection sucks. And you'll see a video there. And it's like 15 seconds. And the first shot shows a non-pivoting head hitting a bone and gel. And then the second shot shows our head on the same shot. And you'll see exactly that. So yeah, when the blade pivots around the bone, the arrow stays straight. But if you look at the one where it deflects, let's say you can see maybe, 12 inches or so past where that bone is in the gel. And the arrow that deflects is almost 3 inches off course within 12 inches past that deflection point.
Yeah.
So absolutely. If you take a low heart shot, for example, and that you were to miss or whatever and hit that front shoulder, there's a chance that things can go haywire. I mean, it happens. I mean, even on rib shots and stuff, it happens. Where deflection is a big deal is on quartering shots.
Mm-hmm.
Mechanicals. I mean, I've shot Rage brand heads prior to Sever. I mean, prior to doing Sever for years. I love them. I mean, I still do. They're a good head. I have nothing but good to say about Rage, honestly. But one of the things, and I've always liked it, but when I started shooting the Sever head, I started taking confidence in shooting steeper quartering shots. And that I couldn't necessarily shoot with any other mechanical as well because they just don't pivot. And having that pivoting blade really helps to keep the head going straight. I can take quartering shots now that I would never have taken with a mechanical prior to. because I've just seen times where they've hit the ribs and they've kind of skipped off down the side of the animal, and things didn't go well.
Mm-hmm.
But I've taken steep quartering shots. I've never had a problem. Never had one customer ever, and all the ones we've sold, ever report back that they had an issue with that. So
Yeah. Well, and like I said prior to, like the broadhead in a bow hunter's world is the most important, in my opinion, most important piece of equipment that you need to have, because you should be putting that to the forefront of being ethical, and you owe it to that animal to be able to be as ethical and lethal as you can for a clean kill and harvest. So I totally agree. And you don't want to be out there, like you were talking about, quartering shots. You don't want to be out there not confident with what you're shooting. So that just shows me that these heads give you more confidence in taking a lot of shots that you normally wouldn't with another broadhead.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's not forget, though, at the end of the day, it's bow hunting, right? Things can go
Right.
wrong, and they do. And that's part of the reason we like bow hunting, is because of the challenge. And so, we're not going to say that somebody's not going to ever have a bad experience, and they do. I mean, the thing is, people will always blame their broadhead for why they don't get their deer. It's funny how they are that way. But at the end of the day, it's all about shot placement. So if you do your job, I'm confident that our head will take care of what it needs to take care of and perform like it should. But you can only design a head to be so good, and then the rest of it's up to the shooter. So
right,
we do our best to try to eliminate as many variables as possible, but at the end of the day, it's bow hunting, right?
Exactly.
Right. That's my personal answer to a lot of people, when they ask me questions about broadheads that I've used or I would recommend. And it's like, they'll all do what they need to do if you do what you need to do. Like, you just got to be able to put the arrow where it needs to go. And, like, it seems like with anything in archery, whether it's building a bow, building an arrow, or even down to probably setting a tree stand. I mean, there's give and take. Like, you're going to gain something, but you're always going to lose something at the same time. And it's that broadhead is the first thing making contact. I mean, that's what you're relying on to put blood on the ground and ethically kill the animal. So, I mean, I think you're spot on with, being the most important piece of gear outside of the bow in your hand.
Right. So let me comment on that, because I can't control the guy's shot placement, and that's nothing I can affect. But what I can control is the quality of the way we design it, the way we build it, the way we put it together. And that stuff matters. I will point out the locking pivoting blades bring some advantages for strength. It allows for the head to, when it encounters a force of hitting a bone or something, pivot out of the way. That reduces the stress on the blades. It's going to greatly minimize the chance for damaging a blade, or worse, even breaking a blade. And I think that the locking pivoting design, besides preventing deflections, prevents a lot of failure of heads. And I've seen a lot of good quality broadheads on the market break blades in the field, and I don't consider that necessarily the fault of that brand. It's just the nature of that design. It's just it is what it is. I mean, I like to use the sports analogy a lot with basketball. Back in the day, rims didn't break away, so guys would dunk and they'd shatter the backboard. And sooner or later, everybody was dunking. A lot of backboards were shattering. They had to come up with a way to deal with that, so they had breakaway rims. And now, with what the Sever design brings to the table, is a design that can give and manage that stress. Think about what's going on with crossbows. I have a 10-point XRT nitro that shoots 475 feet per second with a really lightweight arrow, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like shooting a crossbow that fast, personally. Now, first of all, the Sever will work in all crossbows, so no problem. But I'll take that crossbow and put a 730 grain arrow in it and still shoot it at 360 feet per second. That's producing over 200 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. That's 4 times the amount of energy I'm producing out of my vertical bow. So just to give you an idea, I mean, technology is quickly, going to get to the point where I think that the broadheads are going to have to catch up. You know,
Mhm.
you see that a lot, like with crossbows. I get this question all the time on social media: was your head approved for crossbows? I mean, that's a problem with other broadhead designs right now, is making sure they don't open prematurely when shot out of a crossbow.
Right.
So one thing super cool about the Sever is just the way we've designed it. It doesn't matter how fast you shoot it. It's not going to open because it opens from the back. That's not an issue. But having that locking pivoting blade, when you're shooting it out of a fast bow like that, dealing with the stress is a big deal. And so that locking pivoting blade really, really helps for that.
Yeah.
Well, that attests to your O-ring system too. Let's touch on that, because I know it's a silicone O-ring and it won't dry rot, but you're talking about, putting more torque behind the arrow, like when you pull the trigger. Talk about the design and, the benefit to the O-ring system, because I know a lot of people kind of have a bad taste in their mouth for those designs right now.
Yeah. So but you got to look at it. It's not the O-ring's fault. It's just doing its job. Right. So the O-ring isn't the problem. It's the design of the broadhead that was a problem with other designs. So in the past, broadheads that have used O-rings, they've had exposed blades. So what happens when you have an exposed blade? It's going to catch on things. When it catches on things, it opens. I mean, that's not the O-ring's fault. That's just the broadhead's fault. So I just, what I like about the O-ring in our case is it's a proven solution that works every time. And it's simple. And, again, you look at other designs that don't use O-rings, they don't eliminate frustration either. In a lot of cases, they're more frustrating because once they pop open, they're harder to reset, so forth. So, we just feel like the silicone O-ring is one of those things, if it isn't broke, don't fix it, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But with ours, it's a perfect way to retain the blades, because our blades are fully contained. So there is nothing to snag and accidentally pop them open. There is a little bit of give to them. So if you accidentally push them too hard into your quiver, if you push them up into the quiver hood, sometimes it'll push the blades open a little bit. But being that there's some give to it, those blades or the O-ring will stretch and then come back. We put a little teeny dull spot right on the blade edge, right where that O-ring sits, so that it can stretch a little bit without cutting it. So we've thought through all of those little details to try to make the consumer experience a good one. And any bad experiences people have had with products using O-rings before, I just have, I say it's not a concern with the Sevr head. It just isn't.
Yeah.
You can also reset our blades very quickly. I just leave a second spare O-ring right on my arrow, either right in front of the vanes or right down at the bottom where it screws on. And if I ever needed to reset that, I don't even have to unscrew the broadhead. I just roll it with my thumb up over right where it needs to be, and it's done. I mean, it's so easy that I actually prefer it. Even if I could change to something else, I don't know that I would. I mean, it just works so well, and it's so easy.
Right.
So
I see you guys offer black and red O-rings. Is there a difference in them?
Not in the O-rings. The red ones we install on the Deep 6 broadheads.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's the only reason we do that. Probably more so for our people, so that our people in our warehouse can easily identify Deep 6 from regular.
Okay.
But yeah, they would be fully interchangeable, and we've sold a lot of people spare O-rings that were red, to use on non-Deep 6 broadheads. It's not a problem.
I see. Now, Deep 6, you guys do offer the Deep 6. Can you explain what the Deep 6 is to everybody that doesn't know what it is?
Yeah. So a few years ago, Easton, it was the first company to actually come out with a micro diameter arrow for hunting. And when they introduced that, it was the carbon injection. So this was a 4mm hunting arrow that was so small, regular points and inserts wouldn't fit in it. And they needed a way to attach points. And at the time, the only way to do it, I guess, would be with an outsert. But Easton has a unique patent was the hit system. So anyone that's familiar with the Axis or the FMJ products that Easton makes knows about the hit inserts. And that allows you to install a hidden insert in the arrow, screw the broadhead on, and have basically a more flush, stronger connection between the arrow and the insert. So we wanted to be able to create an arrow that had those benefits, and that's what you needed to have a new thread standard. So what Deep 6 is a different thread on the broadhead that's smaller than a regular standard thread that allows you to attach a broadhead to those micro diameter arrows. So primarily it's an Easton thing. Any Easton 4mm full metal jacket or carbon injection 4mm arrow would require a Deep 6 broadhead. So that's why we do those. Now, if you want to use a half out, a lot of companies now are selling half outs. So, Victory, Gold Tip, Black Eagle, Carbon Express, pretty much they're all now selling micro diameter arrows, and they use half outs to attach the broadheads to those. So I would say 90% of the people out there are going to want regular 832 standard broadheads. Only in the case of those Easton 4mm are you going to need a Deep 6.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's Deep 6 hasn't been around a while, right? It's only been a new thing the last couple of years.
It's probably, I would say I'd guess 6 years, going on 6 or 7 years now, actually.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
it's always been hard to find broadheads for Deep 6 arrows. There's a lot of guys that really like the Deep 6 arrows, but it's hard to get a broadhead for it. So
yep.
It's just nice to have another choice with the Sever 4 Deep 6.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a couple friends that shoot the Deep 6, and they can eliminate some brands because they don't offer them, like you said.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Well, let's kind of go down the line here. So you offer a 2.1, a 1.5, and a 1.7. So, something you probably get a lot of questions of is, somebody might come up to you and say, well, I'm going to go hunt whitetail. What's the best head for, me? Is it a 2.1, a 1.5? Like, how do you direct them to, like, hunting, say a whitetail or an elk or a bear? Like, what do you say when they're asking for what head they need?
Yeah, good question. So I kind of feel like with broadheads, this is another area of debate, right? You've got fixed blade guys and you got mechanical guys. And the reason I mentioned the fixed blade guys in this, even though we're talking mostly about Sever, is because I don't think either camp is wrong. They're just different. They're in their opinions. Fixed blade guys generally are wanting pass-through performance in the animals they shoot. Dr. Ashby was well known for publishing a lot of really well-written articles on penetrating broadheads and the advantages to that. And I don't dispute any of what he's saying. I think it all is valid and makes sense. So there's a lot of guys that want pass-throughs. Then there's the guys that want big holes. And I fall into the big hole camp. So I've never had an animal, and I've killed now over 40 or 50 animals, approaching 50 probably, with rear deploy mechanical heads. And I've never lost an animal. And I've lost animals with mechanical heads, and I'm sure shot placement had a lot to do with it. I've lost animals with fixed blade heads, and I'm sure shot placement had a lot to do with it. But one thing I can say, having seen both a lot, is I prefer the blood trails I get with mechanical heads. Mm-hmm. It opens them up more, and even if I don't get a pass through, I'm still opening it up and I'm creating a huge wound channel and making them bleed. And if I can track the animal, that's the first step to finding it. So right. even if it dies, if I can't find it, if I can't track it, then I fail. So I fall into the camp of I like a big cut. So to kind of explain the why of the line, the 2.1 head was our first head we launched, and that head was going after the big cut mechanical consumer. That's the guy that wants the big cut, that wants the big hole. And I would argue most of the mechanicals on the market fit that bill. Mm-hmm. Those are the most popular. And I would say for most deer hunters out there, most adult deer hunters shooting, normal hunting weights, normal draw lengths. When I'm saying 28 draw length and above, 60 pounds and above for deer size game and hogs, a 2.1 is a great choice.
Okay.
For deer, antelope, hogs, you name it, 2.1 is a great choice. Now, that being said, a lot of people have used our 2.1 to hunt elk, moose. I've had 2 guys kill bison with them. So one of the guys, he shot his bison, got a complete pass through with a 60-pound bow and a regular FMJ that didn't have any extra weight put on it. So just to put it in perspective, shot placement is everything. And with a 2-inch head, with the right shot placement, you can shoot any animal in North America. But it just becomes, shot placement becomes more critical the bigger you get on cut. If you don't, there's always a trade-off, right, with everything, just like guns. Right. Can you shoot an elk with a 243? Yeah, you can. People do it, but would I rather shoot an elk with a 300 Win Mag? Yeah, probably. It's just, there's trade-offs, and so you got to find that balance. And so that's what we felt like we needed when we looked at our heads that we were going to introduce for this year. Was we needed a head that we had the head in the 2.1 that went after the meat of the market. So the white-tailed deer hunter was covered, the western antelope hunter was covered. Even, some of the elk hunters were happy with that head, no problem. But we needed a head that's going to appeal more to, I'll say, the fixed blade mentality a little bit. There's a lot of guys that have shot fixed blades for years and love them, love the performance they get, but they're frustrated by the accuracy that goes along with it. And you're constantly having to, fine tune your stuff and deal with accuracy issues that fixed blades produce. So the 1.5, I'll go there first, is our penetration head. So the Sevr 1.5 has a smaller cut diameter and a more swept back blade angle compared to the 2.1. But you still get the locking, pivoting design and all the benefits of every other Sevr head. So it functions the same. But what that head is intended to do is give you maximum penetration compared to our 2.1 head, which is designed for maximum cut. So like anything in bow hunting, there's a trade-off, right?
Right.
If you're gonna go with if you're gonna produce maximum cut, you will sacrifice penetration. If you're going to produce maximum penetration, you do sacrifice cut. So they're different tools for different jobs. Think of it as a driver and a pitching wedge golf club. They do different things, and they do their different things very well. So with the 1.5, you're going to get really great penetration, and the holes won't be as big. But for the person that's always preferred a fixed blade head, or who wants 2 holes in everything they shoot, or maybe they have a low, they just want good penetration. Maybe they're hunting a moose, maybe they're hunting elk. Maybe they're a lady that has a 50-pound draw or a 40-pound draw or a 25-inch draw. All of those situations, would fit the bill for somebody that would be better served using a 1.5-inch head as opposed to the 2.1.
Okay.
And you kind of have to consider all of those things, right? And I get a lot of calls from people. I had one the other day. A guy said, well, what should I shoot? I'm a 27-inch draw and I shoot 60 pounds. And normally 60 pounds, I'd say, I'd say go 2.1. But he was hunting elk and deer. I said, you know what, go with the 1.7. Because, you have decent amount of draw weight, but your draw length is a tad bit shorter than average. So let's recommend a head that's going to, give him a little bit more in the way of penetration, but still give him a decent cut. So the 1.7 is an awesome, we call it our all-purpose head. It's kind of good at everything. Provides a really good cut, but has a really good penetration potential as well. So that's a good choice. So now with the 1.5 and the 2.1, those are both titanium heads. So those round out like our top of the line. We offer those in both 100 and 125 grain versions, and in the deep 6 in a 100 grain version as well. So we offer the most choice in those, and it covers the broadest. If you're particular about what you're hunting, we have a head for you with those 2 models for sure. Now with the 1.7, in addition to being kind of an all-around good head, on purpose we decided to make that one with a 70-75 aluminum ferrule and a stainless steel tip. And so by doing it that way, we can sell the 1.7 at an even lower price than we're selling the 2 titanium models for. So not only is that all-purpose going to be kind of good for everything, it's going to, the price on that's insane. I mean, if you buy, I think our everyday price on it is $36 a 3-pack equivalent. But if you buy 6 or more, that's pushing like down around $30. So
Okay.
like $30 a 3-pack equivalent. So, and then that's going to compare with heads that are day in and day out selling for $40 a 3-pack retail now. So what we wanted to do with the 1.7 was provide a head that anybody can afford to shoot. I mean, think about the guys in Texas that are hunting hogs, or people in Alabama that can kill a deer a day.
Yep.
You know, it gets expensive, to support your bow hunting hobby. And when you're shooting that much, those guys can't afford to shoot titanium heads. And so we needed something that kind of the everyday hunter can use. And the 1.7 is no slouch. I personally, that's what I'm going to be using this year. Just last week, Sarah Bomar killed a world record water buck in Africa with one. You know, it's an awesome head. So I think we have a really well-rounded lineup with the 3 models. And I feel like we pretty much have a head for everybody. And if we don't, I'll be the first person to recommend a customer not shoot our head if I feel like their setup would be better served with a fixed blade. And I've done that before. But
well, I think you are well-rounded, and I think you do offer something for, like you said, everybody, because, you know, there's like you said earlier, I mean, broadheads is a huge debate. It's like everybody wants their cake and to eat it too. You know, they want penetration and they want the big hole. So it's like, well, you know, you got to figure out something here. What would you rather have more? It's still going to perform well, you know, but you're going to give up a little bit of something else. And honestly, the 1.7, when you start talking about that, that's a head that I'm intrigued by, you know, and it still gives you a decently sized good cut, and, you know, better penetration. So to me, that's like the well-rounded athlete that's not great at everything, but he's very good at, you know, a lot of things. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how I envision it.
Yeah. And you know, if you have the opportunity, I mean, not everybody kills a ton of stuff every year. And I understand that, but if you have the opportunity to hunt a lot and kill a lot of things, I really tell people, don't make up your mind after one animal, right? What you like. I mean, ideally, what I always recommend people do is get a couple of each and use them. One great thing with Sever is they're so accurate. You can put all 3 in your quiver and shoot all 3 interchangeably, basically. So, you know, get some experience, shoot different animals with all the models, and I think you will pretty much come to your own conclusion what gives you the most confidence based on the results you see. And I'm not, and I don't think one person's, you know, and unless somebody's just doing something that's not smart, you know, shooting a 30-pound bow with a 2-inch head, 2-inch mechanical, I wouldn't ever recommend that. But if in most situations, I think, you know, you can make almost anything work if your shot placement's good. But I think every individual hunter will come to their own conclusion as to what head they like the best.
Yep.
And I found that's why I'm liking the 1.7. I mean, I've always been a 2.1 guy, and the more I shoot this 1.7 and the 1.5, I have more experiences with them. And I mean, the more I'm shooting the 1.7, it's quickly growing on me for my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll admit, when I first started working on it, I didn't think I would be shooting it, but you know, it's just because the more you do use something, the more you know, and it's been a good head.
Right. Well, I want to transition a little bit here to another portion and something else you guys offer, and it's your storage, your deluxe Sevr Broadhead case and your hard case there.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm intrigued by it is because I have a friend that with his broadheads, he just, you know, puts them in his quiver during season, and a lot of guys, a lot of hunters, heck, I even do it still, and, you know, put it right in my case, and he ended up having his string blow up. His bow blew up in the case. And when I was looking at this, you guys offer a really nice this deluxe case. It's really nice in how it zips up and it's very contained. A lot of companies don't offer that. Can you explain a little bit? I know it's a case, hard to explain about it, but it's like, where did this idea come from? And
It's funny you asked that question. So in one of our hunting camps, we were actually introducing the Sevr head to some magazine writers. And we got to camp, we'd sent them some heads before, and we got to camp and they show up and they still had the little black cardboard box that the Sevr heads came in, and they were using it as like in their bow case,
Okay.
So they were taking the cardboard shipping box that it came with and using it. And I think just because it was so convenient. And it was Gary, who handles our marketing, was there and he saw that and he came back and he said, we need to design a zipper case that kind of does everything that the cardboard case does, because guys are using their box to keep their broadheads in. I thought, well, that's great. Let's do it. So we did. And it's just a molded hard case with a zipper on it. And you can put all the little plastic tubes that they come in inside. I can actually get 24 heads in one zipper case.
Oh,
and
wow.
Just if you take out the little paper inserts that hold the broadheads, you can fit 2 broadheads per plastic case. So I can get 2 dozen in one of those. And then to make it better, we added a zipper pocket off the one side. So you can take all of if you have replacement blade packs, you can put those in there. Your practice wrench screws, your practice wrench tool, the unlocking tool, all that can go in that other side. So it's just a really convenient way to store stuff. I use it also to hold my extra field points when I'm switching, on and off between practice sessions. So it's pretty slick. We sell the case for $21 on our site, but with Sever, like I said earlier, the more you buy, the better deal you get. So we have a season pack promotion going right now, where when you buy, you get 13 heads for the price of 12 and a free case on that when you use that coupon code. So you'll end up getting that case for free if you hunt a lot and you're going to take advantage of that deal. That's a great way to go. And all of those promotions you can see on our website there. So
Awesome.
Yeah, but the case by itself is an awesome thing, regardless of how many you decide to get. So.
Well, I like it, and it kind of reminds me of I wear a lot of Oakley sunglasses, and then the sunglass case that you get, it's a nice like zip up hard case to store your sunglasses. That's what it reminds me of. And to me, when you're out hunting, like I do a lot of whitetail hunting, and it's like it's supposed to be, whitetail hunting is supposed to be relaxed. When you're back at camp, and you don't want it to be stressful and everything, and this just kind of throws some stress out of it, and being able to be, organized and just have everything right there, and all your broadheads, you're right there. So I thought that was a pretty cool design. So that's why I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, cool. I don't really have anything else. Justin, do you have any closing thoughts or any questions?
No questions really, but just the closing thought on my end. Clint, when you say that you wanted to take the approach of, being personable and, from what I can tell, you personally answer every question on any Instagram comment. You answer every message so far that I've ever sent you. And I mean, we only just talked for the first time on the phone today. Like I've been messaging Sevr Broadheads, and I mean, you always answer. And you go to any post, and Sever's answering every question on every single post. And it's, what you're doing is working, and I just see you guys catching fire out there with some of the people that are using it, and people are you're hearing Sever more and more, and so many people are either wanting to try it or have already tried it, and the guys that have already tried it are pushing it. It seems like no matter what they're coming from, once they shoot the Sever, they're, they swear by it. And I just want to say, like, what you guys are doing is awesome. There's a lot to be said about going consumer direct like you are. And, I know there's a few companies in the industry doing it, and I'm not going to be surprised to see a whole lot more doing that here in the very near future. But, for your goals and what you set out to do, I got to say that you're doing a great job at it.
Well, I appreciate the compliment, sincerely. You know, it's one thing to sell a product, but it's a lot of work to answer the questions and to answer the emails, and it's something that we strive to do. I mean, it's something that's a big part of our strategy, and we don't want to let one person, you know, go without being recognized or without being addressed if they have a question. I mean, that's so integral to who we are that it's as important as our product, in my opinion. I mean, it's funny, you can get consumed about a product, but the people, it's all about the people. It's about our customers. It's about our customers. You know, like we're active on Instagram because you're our customers too. I mean, you guys are all we got. Mm-hmm. You're what makes it happen. So, I mean, we couldn't be who we are if it wasn't for our customers, and it's a huge part of what we do. So I appreciate you recognizing it, and we're going to continue to do what we do and just work hard and hopefully keep growing.
You said it earlier, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know? So, I mean, just keep rolling with it. And, I mean, it's working, so keep it up, man. And I know you and I actually got the chance to meet face-to-face out in Salt Lake in February. And then I know that you guys do the whole circuit, you know, during show season. I know you were out here in Des Moines for the Iowa Deer Classic. And, you know, not only are you handling things on the digital side, but I mean, you guys are putting yourselves out there all over the country to meet the customers and answer questions face to face and let people get their hands on it. So I mean, and that's all you guys as well. You personally, and it's not just guys that you put on the road to sell it. Like, you're doing it the same as you are everywhere else.
It's so much fun to go and meet people face to face and do consumer shows. I mean, it's probably one of the highlights of my year is doing that. I wish we were bigger because I want to go to more of them. But we try to make it to as many as we can. I think this next year we're going to try to hit more of the deer classics. I think this year we did Harrisburg, Ohio, and Iowa. We will do Buckmasters in Alabama. This year, we're going to do the Total Archery Challenge in Utah here this weekend. And hopefully next year we can keep, you know, adding to our show circuit. So, yeah, I appreciate that. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, cool. Clint, and the lasting thoughts on my end, where would you direct people to go to, you know, see anything Sever, or, you know, YouTube, social media channels, website? Like, where would you like everybody to go to learn more about them?
I would say Instagram is probably our strongest social media platform. So, you know, Instagram, of course, Facebook. I would say Instagram's the best one. We do post as much as we can to Facebook, but with just Instagram stories and swipe ups and things, that just tends to work best for us. We have a lot of good information we save on our highlights section of our Instagram page. Tons of how-tos, frequently asked questions. We have a lot of customer submitted kill shots that we put up, testimonials from customers. I mean, it's just a good page for information. But then SevrBroadheads.com is our website. It's the only place we sell them as well.
Okay.
And so, again, there's a lot of information there as well. We are going to be doing more and more on our blog side of things, as well as YouTube side of things. But I would say to everybody, just follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Sign up for our email list as well, which is on our website. And if you do any of that, you'll be able to, you know, keep up on everything that's going on in our world.
Awesome. Well, again, I want to thank you and I appreciate you coming on and taking the time to do this. And, you know, your busy day, like Justin was saying, you're busy with everything. You're running it all. So thank you again, and hopefully you have a good upcoming season this year.
Yeah, Aaron, you too, man. And I appreciate you guys taking the time to think of us and wanting us on your show. We appreciate it. So we look forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, thank you very much, Clint.
Yeah, thank you, Clint.
Thanks, guys.